Welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be looking at something that I think affects us pretty much every day,
Right.
and that's the endowment effect.
Okay.
Um, basically, why we overvalue things that we own.
Absolutely.
You know, that old T-shirt you got that you just can't get rid of,
Yes.
even though you haven't worn it in years.
Yeah. We're going to explore that.
Exactly.
We're going to look at, why we get so attached to our stuff and how this bias really impacts the decisions that we make every day.
So to get into this today, we actually have two different sources.
Okay.
We have a blog post about minimalism.
Okay.
And we have more of like a longer research-heavy article on the psychology of ownership.
All right.
And I got to say, some of the examples that I've read are pretty wild.
Yeah.
So to kick things off,
Okay.
there's this really great anecdote from the Becoming Minimalist blog about this guy who bought a bottle of wine for $5.
Okay. $5 for a bottle of wine.
Yeah, like years ago, right?
All right.
And a wine merchant offered him $100 for it.
Wow.
And he refused.
Oh, he refused.
Yeah.
Really?
And even more than that, he also wouldn't buy an identical bottle for $100.
So wait, so he values more than $100, but less than $100.
Yeah. Like he...
That's interesting.
I guess so.
So this is a perfect example, I mean, just to jump right into it,
Right.
of the endowment effect in action.
So it's not just that he was like sentimental about his wine collection or anything.
Well, it's not just sentimentality. It's this documented psychological bias.
Yeah.
We tend to place a higher value on things that we own simply because we own them.
Okay.
So that objective value might stay the same, but our perception is all warped.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about, a bottle of wine.
Right.
What other examples did you find?
Well, so how about this?
Yeah.
There was a study done by The Economist where they asked people, like, how much would you be willing to pay for extra legroom on an airplane?
Oh, yeah.
Right? And people said around like $12 or so.
Okay, all right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But then they were asked, okay, how much would you need to be paid to give it up your legroom?
Right.
And the price jumped to $39.
Wait, so the same amount of space is suddenly 3 times as much?
Just because it's theirs.
Just because it's theirs.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
It's so interesting.
That is wild.
And you see the same pattern in all these other studies. They've looked at lottery tickets, hunting licenses, all sorts of things. It really makes you wonder.
Yeah.
How much of our decision-making is really driven by this ownership bias without us even realizing it. It's sneaky.
Yeah, it's like our brains are playing tricks on us.
Right.
So initially, researchers thought that this was just about loss aversion.
Right.
We hate losing things.
Yeah, makes sense intuitively, but there's more to it than that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it turns out it's really the ownership itself that inflates the value, even when there's no actual threat of losing anything.
Interesting.
So there was a really interesting study done by Carrie Moore-Wedge where participants were shown 2 identical mugs. And some of them already owned a mug while others didn't. And they found that the people who already had a mug valued the second mug more highly.
Oh.
Even though no one was taking away their original mug.
Gotcha.
No loss involved.
Right.
But just having that mug made them value that second mug more.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing.
So just having something makes us think it's more valuable, even if it's the exact same.
Exactly.
As something someone else has.
Yeah, it's like our brains are constantly trying to justify why we own things.
And this whole idea of psychological ownership, it's not as simple as like you own it or you don't.
No, you're right. It's more of a spectrum.
Right.
So Ken Hendricks, who's an expert in consumer psychology, he argues that ownership exists on a spectrum. And he gives this great example with bicycles. So obviously owning a bike creates the strongest sense of ownership.
Yeah.
But even just borrowing a friend's bike creates a weaker bond. And get this, even just imagining owning that bike that you're researching online can trigger these feelings of ownership.
So even window shopping can trigger this.
Absolutely.
That's wild.
It is wild.
Is there any research to back that up?
There is. So there was a study done at the University of Texas where they had people choose between 2 pictures and then they got to keep one as a gift.
Right.
And later, they showed them a series of pictures, including the one they picked and the one they rejected.
Okay.
And they had to associate each picture with positive or negative words.
Gotcha.
So what they found was that even though they didn't remember which picture they chose initially, they were way faster at linking positive words with the picture they had picked.
Wow.
So
it's like making a choice, even a small one.
Yeah.
Creates this unconscious sense of ownership.
Exactly.
That colors our perception.
It really does.
So it's not just about owning stuff.
Yeah.
It's about
the choices.
The choices we make.
It's
almost like choosing something makes us automatically like it more.
Yeah.
Just to justify our decision.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And you know who else has figured this out?
Who?
Marketers.
Oh, no.
They are masters at using the endowment effect to influence our buying habits.
All right, now things are getting really interesting.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about this.
All right, well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how they're doing this.
Okay, so how do they use this against us?
Ooh.
Like, are we talking subliminal messages?
Yeah. No. Not quite that dramatic, but they definitely have some tricks up their sleeve.
Okay.
Take free trials, for example. Those are everywhere these days.
They are.
And, you start using a service, maybe get a little reliant on it, and bam, the endowment effect kicks in.
Okay.
Suddenly canceling feels like you're giving up something you already own.
Right. Even though you technically don't.
Even though you were only using it for free for a week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so sneaky.
It is. It's very clever.
So I bet those feel the freshness signs at the grocery store are more than just about quality control, right?
You got it.
Okay.
Touching a product even briefly can create a sense of ownership and make you more likely to buy it. So it's like a mini endowment effect in action.
So they're basically trying to trick our brains into thinking we already own the stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
And it doesn't stop there.
Oh, no.
So have you ever noticed like those websites where you can like rotate a 3D image of a product?
It's like a shoe or something?
Yeah, like a shoe or furniture, and research shows that even that can increase that feeling of ownership.
Okay.
Makes you more likely to add it to your cart.
Oh, so it's like virtual feel the freshness then.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and remember that keychain study? From Kent Hendricks' article, they found that the longer people held a keychain, the more money they demanded to sell it.
Really?
Even just a few minutes made a difference.
Wow. So time really does make the heart grow fonder.
Right.
Or at least our wallets cling tighter.
Or your wallet cling tighter, exactly.
So what does that mean for online shopping?
Well, that's a great question.
Where you have to wait for delivery.
Yeah, think about it. The endowment effect might actually be growing throughout that whole process.
Interesting.
So first you research, you pick out the perfect item.
Right.
Then you eagerly await its arrival.
Yeah.
By the time it's in your hands.
Right.
That feeling of ownership is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Making it less likely you'll return it.
Right.
Even if there's a problem.
Even if it doesn't quite fit right or whatever.
Exactly.
So that 30-day return window.
That 30-day return window. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant way to take advantage of the endowment effect.
Yeah, they're banking on you.
Yeah.
Getting attached to your purchase.
Exactly.
Before you can return it.
Before the return window closes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say we managed to resist the urge to hoard everything.
Yeah.
How do we decide what to keep, what to let go of?
How do we know what to get rid of?
Does how we get something impact the endowment effect too?
Absolutely it does.
Okay.
So imagine you're looking at your bookshelf. You've got a book that you got for free, one that you built yourself, and one that you inherited from a loved one.
Right.
Which one feels most valuable?
Definitely the one from my loved one.
Exactly.
It's no contest.
Things with sentimental value, especially ones tied to our loved ones, they tend to hold the most inflated value for us. But it goes beyond sentimentality.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even a random acquisition. Like a gift. Right.
Or like an unexpected check.
Okay.
Tends to be seen as less valuable than something you earned.
So our brains kind of devalue things?
Yes.
That just fall into our lap?
It's as if we need that sense of effort or accomplishment to justify the ownership.
Right.
And speaking of effort, have you heard of the IKEA effect?
Yes.
The idea that we love the furniture we build, even if it looks a little wonky.
Exactly.
Yeah, we overvalue things that we build ourselves, even if objectively they're not that great.
Makes you think twice about all those DIY projects.
Yeah, it does.
I know.
It really does.
But this brings up a question that's kind of been bugging me.
Okay, what's that?
Does the endowment effect mess with our future selves too?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
And the way it works is fascinating.
Yeah, lay it on me.
So we tend to make decisions in the present.
Right.
Assuming that our future selves
are going to value things the same way that we do now.
That makes sense.
Right.
We're the same person.
But research shows it's not so simple. There's a study where people were asked how much they would sell something for, either now or in the future.
Okay.
So you would think that they would want more money in the future.
Because they owned it longer.
Because they owned it longer. Exactly.
Yeah.
But get this.
Oh.
People were willing to sell for S in the future. It's so counterintuitive.
Why would we sell something for less later on?
Well, because we underestimate how attached our future selves will be to that item.
So we think we'll be more rational.
Exactly. But the endowment effect is likely still going to be in full force.
Think about someone who, buys a big house.
Right.
Thinking, oh, yeah, I'm going to need all this space years down the road.
Yeah, down the line when I have a family or whatever.
And then they realize, oh, I'm spending all my time cleaning this place.
Yeah.
I wish I had a smaller house.
And now they want to downsize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. So we really need to be more mindful.
You do.
About how our present decisions, influenced by the endowment effect, might not
serve our future selves.
Serve our future selves all that well.
Right.
Okay, so what can we do about all this? Are we doomed?
That's the big question.
To be ruled by this bias?
Well,
forever?
Not necessarily. There are strategies we can use to fight back.
Okay.
Or at least lessen its impact.
Okay.
For example, studies suggest that experience with buying and selling actually weakens the effect.
So if I'm constantly hitting up online marketplaces and things, I might be training myself.
You might be onto something.
To be more objective.
The more you practice detaching from items, the easier it becomes.
Okay.
But there's another technique that might surprise you.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me.
It's called the hand washing trick.
Hand washing? Like with soap and water?
Yep, exactly.
Really?
It sounds crazy, I know.
Yeah.
But researchers have found that washing your hands can actually kind of reset your mental state. It's like hitting a refresh button in your brain.
So it's not just about getting rid of germs. It's about getting rid of mental clutter too.
Exactly. And in the context of the endowment effect, studies have shown that washing your hands can make you more willing to part with things.
Really?
It's like the physical act of cleaning helps us detach from the object.
Wow. I'm definitely going to have to try that next time I'm tackling my closet.
Try it out.
Maybe I'll even set up a hand washing station.
There you go.
In my garage for my next yard sale.
I love it.
But, jokes aside.
Yeah.
It is a reminder that even small actions can interrupt these automatic thought patterns.
Absolutely.
And help us make more rational decisions.
Yeah, it's all about being mindful of those unconscious biases.
Okay, so we've got experience. We've got hand washing.
Yep.
Are there any kind of bigger lifestyle changes?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That might help minimize this effect.
Well, so research on hunter-gatherer societies offers some interesting insights.
All right.
Specifically, the Hazda tribe in Tanzania. They have very little exposure to market economies. And guess what? They don't really exhibit the endowment effect.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
So maybe our modern consumer culture is partly to blame for this.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
That tendency to overvalue all of our stuff.
It's interesting because the Hazda, they emphasize sharing and community ownership.
Exactly.
Which maybe naturally counteracts that urge to overvalue our personal possession.
It could.
Huh. That's a fascinating thought.
It is.
So maybe even if we can't go full hunter-gatherer, there's a lesson there.
I think so.
About, maybe focusing more on experiences and sharing with others could help us break free from this bias.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing that true value often lies
Yeah.
in things you can't hold in your hand.
Like relationships.
Exactly.
Completely.
And the well-being of your community.
Exactly.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about today.
It's been a fascinating dive.
Yeah, to recap for our listeners.
Yeah.
We started by defining the endowment effect.
Right.
That sneaky little bias that makes us overvalue things.
That sneaky little bias.
Just because we own them.
Just because they're ours.
Right.
Yeah.
We saw how it's not just sentimentality.
Right.
But like a deep-rooted psychological phenomena.
It really is.
That affects all of us.
All of us, yeah.
Yeah, and then we explored how marketers use this to their advantage.
Right, all those clever tactics.
Right, from free trials to encouraging us to touch products.
Yeah, all in an attempt to get us to buy more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we dug even deeper
Deep
into the psychology of ownership itself.
Yeah.
We learned that it's more of a spectrum than a black and white, like you own it or you don't.
It's not that simple.
Situation. And we even saw how like the source of an item, whether it's a gift, something we built, or an inheritance.
Right, all those different ways we acquire things.
Influences how much we value it.
It really does.
And we can't forget about our future selves.
Oh, yeah, our poor future selves.
Right.
Yeah.
We learned how the endowment effect can really cloud our judgment.
It can.
When making those long-term decisions.
Absolutely.
Often leading to choices that don't serve us well.
Yeah.
Down the line.
Down the line.
But the good news is it's not all doom and gloom.
No, there's hope.
We also learned about some simple yet powerful strategies.
We did.
To combat this bias.
Like experience.
Right. Like gaining experience, buying and selling. That hand-washing trick.
The hand-washing trick, yes! Gotta love it.
And maybe even taking inspiration from the Hasded tribe's emphasis on community and shared resources.
Shifting our values a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, before we go,
yeah,
here's a final thought-provoking question.
Okay, hit me.
For you to ponder.
Right.
Remember that bookshelf example?
Yeah, the bookshelf?
Right. With the book you got for free, the one you built, and the one you inherited. Does the source of something truly change its inherent value?
That's a good question.
Or is that just our endowment effect talking?
Makes you think.
Right.
Yeah.
Really makes you question the whole concept of value.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, for those who want to dive even deeper, we've included links to the articles in the show notes.
Yeah, check them out.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.